Hey everybody, welcome back to the Spin Rack. I'm here with my boys, Kyle and Petey. Say what's up, Petey.
Hey, what's going on?
Kyle,
Hey,
give
ready
me
to
a.
rock.
So hey, today we're going to be talking about probably what's going to be one of the biggest comics of 2026. It's going to be a new version of Superman versus Amazing Spider-Man, or should I say Amazing Spider-Man versus Superman, the battle of the century. I guess it's the 21st century,
One
right?
of
Yeah, so
each.
it is the battle of the century.
There'll be one
Huh?
of each. There'll be one of each. So one in March
Yeah.
2026 and one in April.
So it's new. They had previous one. I'm going to pass this on to Petey to give us a little background about the one from that came out before, and let's get into this one. Petey, little background, please.
Well, I think this is also going to be for the 50th anniversary. So
Hmm.
they're going to re-release the original. Well, actually, the original crossover between Marvel and DC is the Wizard of Oz. Because they both worked on that story. Even though Marvel, I think, did the heavy lifting on that. But that made, since they could work together, the next thing they wanted to do was Superman and Spider-Man, and they got their top talents on it. They got Jerry Conway that was doing work for both, I think, at some point. He was one of the, not the youngest, but one of the youngest. And then we also had Ross Andrew, who's a Spider-Man artist. We had Dick Giordano doing inking. So with him inking, at the same time, all the pages were winding up in Continuity Studios where Neil Adams worked. So a lot of the Superman figures were redrawn. Just they said there was no official deciding that Neil would redraw them. They were just in the office, and since Dick and Neil worked together, he just redrew them when he saw the pages in there. Said, "Hey, Superman needs to look up." And then at the same time, John Romita also was doing the touch-ups on Spider-Man where he felt needed, and we got the book that we got. And there's no prior warning. Maybe there was a blurb in one of those things, but most kids wound up and they saw and they's like, "What is this?" And it led to a few other crossovers. Well, what's
That's
up?
funny. No, that's funny. The kids look at it. What is this?
Yeah, we didn't know it was going that way. Now we go to the previews and we see, oh yes.
Like, what? This doesn't look normal. Is this for real? Let me buy this. Give me $1. What? $2? Nah, that's too expensive.
Well, the thing is, the hard part is this book was out, and I think in the 80s, it would be up on the wall, but at the same time, it wasn't that big a book, but the importance is still there. The importance was always there, and so much stuff came out of it post that, because I think you could kind of tell some of these backgrounds was also since Terry Austin was Dick Giordano's assistant. He did some work on the backgrounds and whatnot here. So there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of classic stuff here, and they didn't kill themselves to say it's a alternate universe and whatnot. They just played. They just said, "Hey, they're both in the now. We're both going to each other's city. One would go obviously into New York, and then Spider-Man would go into Metropolis." Which would lead to another crossover and many more after this. But they're starting them back. And they talk with if they did Batman, they gotta go with with Superman's doing pretty well. Just depends on who's drawing it, who's writing and drawing this one. So we shall
Yeah.
see.
I wonder what they were going to do with Superman because I noticed that they had the what's the right word? The undercard stories in Batman Deadpool, and there was no Superman story whatsoever, and Superman also didn't appear in any of the covers.
Hmm.
So I was thinking, like, okay, well they're probably reserving him for something else. And then I was trying to guess, well, they didn't do Batman and anybody who I thought they would have put with him. It surely wasn't Batman and the Incredible Hulk again. So I wonder who they're going to put Superman with. But I'm pleasantly surprised that they're going to do. It's going to be Superman and Spider-Man again. But the only two characters who really mean anything at the end of the day. So I'm glad to see them back in this type of format again, adventuring together. I wonder if they'll pick up from where this story or the two Treasury books, left off. If that any of that stuff is still going to be in service for them in terms of what we'll read here. But yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised. I really thought this was just a reissue of that original story, but a full new adventure. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be on board for this. I I know the cover's iconic, but I never liked the way Superman looked on the issue. I love Spider-Man's pose, but Superman always looked too small for me because of they want to have him flying, and just the positioning was always kind of off for me. It makes him look smaller than he actually is. Spidey looks great though.
Look, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I think we're missing the elephant in the room.
Hmm.
Spider-Man and Superman have nothing near each other in terms of power levels.
They don't
It would
have
have
to.
made it
Point
would
of
have made more sense. It would have made more sense to do
oh,
Spider-Man and someone like Captain America.
Do Batman and
We're,
Superman
we're not we're
have
not talking we're not talking about Batman and Superman.
just answer my question. Just answer my question. Do
Yes,
Batman and Super do
yes.
Batman and Superman share similarity in terms of power, in terms of power levels?
He has the world's greatest intellect.
I'm gonna give you one more chance. I'm gonna give you one more chance. Okay, and the people will see this. The people are gonna see this. Do does do Batman and Superman have a similarity in terms of their powers? I.e., Superman has a whole bunch of powers. Batman has no powers, yet they adventure together all the time. So then, if they can do it, what is the problem with Superman and Spider-Man? I leave that one to you.
I'm saying we did this in '76. Why are we bringing it back up? Petey,
That
you
that
get what
wasn't
I'm
your
saying, right?
original. That wasn't your original thing. You're over here. You're flip flopping.
And will this be an anthology like the last one that just came out?
I think
it
so.
wasn't a full-on anthology.
So what was it? A half
Main
on
story
anthology? A
back.
quarter on anthology? It's a
No,
damn
no, main
anthology.
story and has some backup stories. It's not a full-on anthology.
The
I don't
backup.
know what else. I think it is an anthology. I don't know what
I
else to
think so
call
too.
it.
I don't know what to call it too.
I would say those things, because those stories aren't really, those aren't really. It's just like if you look at an annual, I think it's more like like here we have a multiple amount of stories in one book that are all completed in the book. Whereas anthologies, I mean, I guess you could go to, I guess, like stuff like that, but even, like, was it like the weird science and those sort of things? They all have equal amount of story in the book, that sort of thing. Even though Marvel Comics presents, even though Wolverine's the lead, he's only getting 8 pages in comparison to Machine Man or Black Panther or that sort of thing. So that's what I think about, like, most of the time, or like, what's that thing? Heavy metal or something like that. But anyway, um, I hear you guys on it, but I think this having I think that those are more like just bonus sort of things. Those other things that they didn't really go too far as story wise, but they did have some things of artists. Oh, that would be cool, but it'd be cool for its own thing. Like Captain America and Wonder Woman in their own big thing, done by somebody, a classic artist, could be really fun. So, that's what I'm kind of looking forward to. And ultimately, I don't know. It's a did they re-release these Treasury editions before this? This is the first they re-releasing these Treasuries, right?
In Treasury form,
Yeah.
yes, but they have reprinted it. There
Okay.
was the original Treasury, then they reprinted it in comic book form with a gold border. Then it was collected in a trade paperback, the DC Marvel crossovers volume. I think there's 3 volumes, one, two, and three. And this, to the best of my recollection, would be the fourth, or rather the third reprint.
It feels like DC called Marvel and said, he said, you notice we've been doing treasuries? Yeah, we're not interested in doing treasuries. He called back like, look, we really, we want the DC and Marvel stuff to be reprinted in treasury form. And he said, well, we only do that if you do let us do a new treasury. And we're going to do Deadpool. I say, okay, whatever, Marvel, if you want to do that, then can we get this? Yes, you can get that. Because it's not leading
I
to
don't think it
Marvel doing any treasury. They're not into any sort of other kind of printing as far as what they're doing outside
because
of
they suck when it comes to that stuff. Actually, they just suck right now altogether.
yeah.
I think the whole idea of them. I honestly think this came from the omnibus that they put out with the DC Marvel omnibus. That was very successful, but that's a one time thing. That's not happening again. So that came out, probably looked good, and then they were like, hey, we could definitely do some more of this. We could definitely do some more of this in terms of getting some, especially the stuff they already did. That's just reprint. They love doing that stuff. That's free money. But I guess then it, germinates into Batman versus rather Batman Deadpool. And then since the anniversary is coming up, right, hey, why not take some time for this? Do you remember what was the release for the 1976?
Yeah, yeah, 1976.
Oh,
Mhm.
perfect. Perfect. Because next year, 2026 is also the United States 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. So this would be something to go right along with that. I'm pretty certain that I don't know. Well, it may be hard to get it done, but they'll try to whip up as much patriotic sentiment as possible, and you can definitely put stuff out like this, that ties along with it.
Well, to go to
So do you think this
Morris's
is
point, what you were trying to say earlier is that Marvel and DC were giving you characters that don't aren't exact matches. So you got Spider-Man, Superman, you got Batman, Hulk, and the initial X-Men wasn't supposed to be. It wasn't supposed to be like mirror X-Men Titans. Marvel thought that they would, even though they thought that DC would go with the Legion, and DC said no, we want the Titans in there. So that's how it happened, and so and then George Perez was like, I'm living to do do the JLA Avengers or Justice League Avengers. So that's how we started to see the mirror image crossovers. But initially, you're supposed to have fun with them, and you have characters that
Hmm.
might have there's so much as far as I mean, if the hard part is one thing that people don't know that is a lot of old like Marvel in the Silver Age, all the old stuff. They borrowed a lot of stuff from some of the old DC comic books. So having Peter Parker go to Metropolis and see that, you can see the similarities of having them both as reporters. And the early stories really had a lot, especially the new strip had a lot of fun things with Clark Kent, as far as being a reporter and doing different things, and even the setup of like Mary Jane, where you don't see her face in the storyline. But ultimately, in Superman, you get to see the woman, this like woman who's so supposedly so pretty, you can't see her face for like a long while, and then you see her face, and then of course something happens, some later on thing. But there's so many bits that it feels like Stan Lee was keeping in his pocket, or maybe even the artists too. They were like, I want to use this bit, and they were using them. And then at the same time,
Yeah.
Stan was like, hey, our distinguished competition. So you would never think of them borrowing from DC when there's so much similarities.
Oh, what? That's the Marvel Periscope.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, hey, what's going on, man? Anybody got any ideas? Nah, I know what to do. Here, pull up the Periscope. Let's see what DC's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I got an idea. Yeah, what? They just brought back Jason Todd. We'll bring back Bucky. Perfect.
I think because even this is off of the direct path of it, but they'll say, okay, well, Marvel, even in the Fantastic Four, we don't have any, nobody did the tortured monster as a hero, and it's not the same character, but Bizarro initially was he was trying to do good. He just looked like a monster, and they were like, "Oh, something went wrong with this tribute he did. It went wrong, and he even dies heroically." So there's a lot of bits. There's a bunch of There's also a bunch of heavy stories in the Silver Age with Superman, where you could see Marvel lean towards what DC was doing with the death of Franklin Storm and stuff like that. So some of the heavy stuff in the Silver Age, Marvel was like, we're doing drama like this. So that part of having Spider-Man and Peter Parker and Clark Kent interacting with each other. I think the one after this, even though it's just great having John Buscema draw all of those characters, Spider-Man and the DC characters and the Hulk
Yeah.
and whatnot, but it's not as good as this one, but it's definitely for the art. It's because it's very it's very shooter how you do a book. It's like a lot of very explanatory like kind of descriptions and stuff like that. But the art is a lot of fun, so it's good to have them back again. But obviously this is like crazy. So even who was it? Jose Luis Garcia when they asked him to do Superman, Wonder Woman, and he was just getting into the industry, and he was like, they said, "Can you do this?" And he saw the Superman and Muhammad Ali, and then he saw this one, and he was like, he's like, "Well, if you want me to do something like the Spider-Man and Superman, I don't think I could do that. This is like too good. Like this one is Neil Adams. This art is beautiful, but this guy, the storytelling, the action, and I can't do this." And like, no, 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 we feel you can do it, and we got that gorgeous book out of him. So
Yeah,
Do you
you
think
can
it's
do
gonna
it.
be? Do you think it's gonna be a hit?
I'm think it is, and I don't even need to see who the talent is involved. You know, I'm not sure they're going to throw Dan Mora in it, but since they're hiding it, they wanted
They
to.
got Dan Moore. They got Dan Moore on. Yeah, this is gonna be a hit.
So I think
I
that I think
I don't remember Dan Moore's art if he's done any Spider-Man, but right now everybody loves his Superman art, so you got that going for you, and you got Superman, you got Spider-Man. I,
Well,
I
Spider-Man
can't.
really sells, so we got it.
Yeah,
But I mean, well, the question: who's the big bad? I mean, Doc Ock wasn't Doc Ock the big bad of the last one?
yeah, it was Lex Luthor and Doctor Octopus.
Uh-huh. Makes sense. But again, Doc Ock is I don't know. That's a whole nother thing. So, anything else you guys want to add to
he's
this?
trying to throw a shot at Doc Ock. I don't know. Like, come on, have
Yo,
Oh
come
no,
on, he ain't Superman.
it's not about. Look at this.
Some a mega powered person, you know. But hey, I don't want to argue with you guys on that. The
and
point
then
is,
you probably like the other issue where the main villain was Doctor Doom and John Buscema. I'm remembering the art now. John Buscema, Superman was. I could just see him with long blonde hair because the body was Thor. It was just Thor the whole thing. There's this one point where with the cave and his body was just so broad in terms of the musculature. It's like, yep, this would have been, you know, if it had been Superman and Thor, you could definitely see like some whole Asgardian stuff going on. Maybe Superman eventually getting like a Viking helmet. But you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, great stuff at the end of the day. But the yeah, the stylings of Thor were definitely there, at least in terms of the musculature on Superman, not on Spider-Man.
Mhm.
now we're kicking with Thor. Thor and would be good. Lobo. No, not Lobo. Something like that would be a little bit more exciting.
That's interesting. I don't mind that.
But this is a pair safer hand, a safe pair of hands. But it also tells me more that I see this that Marvel and DC really are starting to get desperate. Simple as that.
Huh? How can you say that?
On that.
Because if they didn't have to do it, they wouldn't do it.
Why wouldn't you
This
do
was
Right?
it
in
on
the
the anniversary? It's the
this
anniversary.
is the pipe.
They're
One
doing a
is
new one. They're doing a new one. If it was just
On
the
the
because
anniversary,
it's
it's okay.
anniversary.
because it's the end. One, it's the anniversary. Didn't we already discuss this? One, anniversary. Two, they had a lot of success with the DC Marvel omnibuses, and I'm pretty certain at that time these guys were like, "Hey, we can make some money like this. It's not going to cost you know, it's not going to really cost us too much." So then, of course, you do the dead. I mean, come on, you read Batman, Deadpool. They phoned that in, but okay, we also acknowledge that look, DC is clicking on all cylinders. They don't need to do this, but these things are usually in the pipeline, you know, well before any of the other stuff. They didn't know that DC All In was going to be that successful. They sure as heck didn't know that the Absolute Universe was going to be that successful. So you go and then you do this as well. Hey, what's wrong with a little more money, right?
No,
And
nothing.
have a reason to do it. It's the anniversary.
And Dan Mora has, to the best of my knowledge, Dan Mora has done no Spider-Man art. He's done some independent stuff, but he's done no official Spider-Man art. So that would be even more of a draw to get people in because they really like his DC stuff, the way that he renders DC characters. I don't recall him doing anything. I don't recall any of his work for Marvel if he's done something. He's not a new artist. He's been around. You know, he's an experienced artist, but that would definitely be a draw in. So you've got all these things going. I mean, it's hard for me to say this, but yeah, I can see that Marvel's trying to, you know, gin up some stuff at the end of the day. But DC's clicking right now. They don't really need to do this to get people looking at them. They've already got people looking at them.
Well, if you're saying it has a long tail, right? It means that, like you said, they did this months ago, and so now this is the fruition of it. But do you think anything? I mean,
Years,
look, you think
years ago,
years, months
yeah.
ago, or a year ago? But I mean, people were asking for
You
the
know when the anniversaries are something like Action Comics 1000. They don't plan that couple of years in advance because they plan comic books 3 months in advance. That probably gets gamed out like 5 years before because they're like, look, we want this to come out when? We want this to come out in this particular month, and then we need to know, well, how many issues before we get there. No, that's going to take too long. We'll go double. We're going to do bi-weekly issues to get us up to speed so we can get this book. So this book will get to 1100 or this book to get to 1000 by this time. They take, this is not a game where it's played monthly, it's played quarterly. And then because it's played quarterly, you can say, no, we can look 2, 3 years in advance as to where we want this book in terms of issue number, and like, is there anything else coming out? Superman, remember, Superman has an anniversary every 5 years. Every 5 years is a big anniversary because he's been around so long. So it's 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95. And then it's just a decision as to, well, are we going to try to plug for this one or plug for the other one? So they do those things.
I still say it's a money grab.
There's
I,
money
I
involved,
don't,
but what it's not.
there's definitely money involved.
It don't make any sense to be like it's a money grab when
Well, if it's look, the one they just came out with the Deadpool Batman, and that was not that great. That was good, but the stories were not that great. So
You got to, again, look at where, more than likely, when was the decision made to do Batman Deadpool with the DC Marvel omnibuses? That's probably when they started laying down some of the plans for those type of things. And they had to know this was coming down the pike. It wasn't a secret. They know when their anniversaries are. They have people keeping track of that. So this is something like, yeah, we can do these particular things. They cross over, and we can get some easy money that way. But it,
well, it just
you're going to get free money. You're going to get free money one way or the other. Okay, so but the whole idea was that I'm pretty certain it just stated from the fact that both companies did really, really well with those omnibuses. They all sold out, all of them.
well, you have that's the thing. You have the omnibuses. You have the fact that in as I'm saying, in my mind, you know, I didn't see a clear reason why they would do Deadpool Batman. It just feels like Marvel's like, hey, we see the merit in putting this crossover back out, but we should get some new money. And we want some new money too, so we'll put some books out. And it's like, well, what do you want to do? I want to do Deadpool. It's like, all right, so we're both doing Deadpool. I'm like, yeah, no problem. As long as we get to do Deadpool Batman, we're fine. So that's the I think it feels like that might be the concession because they wanted to do this, but at the same time, it puts them back together into working on projects and coming out with stuff. There we go. We got this thing, but we can't always. I mean, all the events, more so the events of. Regretfully, we're in the time of events, and we're not being able to get out of it. No one wants to get out of this thing where they want the stories
But
to
they can't
stand on its own.
because they won't stop buying. These guys complain about, I've heard readership complain for years. Stop with the events. Oh, there's always an event. There's an event every year. And the event sells every year. Why? Because it's an event. Nobody wants to miss out on the story or a first appearance or the cover or what have you. So if here's the thing though, if readership would pay more, just as much attention to the regular books, then you wouldn't have the necessity for the event. But they always do well with these events. They have for years. As soon as well, again, they do a lot of moaning, but then they also do a lot of buying.
Well,
okay.
that's definitely the thing, and we can't people. That's the thing when they look at they looked at if you look at the I guess when Peter David was doing the Hulk, a lot of people didn't or younger people didn't understand, or even critics didn't understand. Looking back in the '70s and saying, well, why would they introduce a popular character like Wolverine in the Hulk? Like he's gonna be obviously he looks like, and you have Rob Liefeld say, "Oh yeah, guy with the knives, yeah, blades in his hand. Of course he's gonna be popular." And it's like, no,
Whatever.
nobody saw it. Like they're reading the Hulk for the Hulk. The Hulk was made. The X-Men don't have a treasury. They don't. They didn't get a treasury because they never were successful enough in the time when Marvel was doing treasuries. And at the same time that was happening, when the treasuries was happening, you know, you had the talents of, Byrne and Claremont. The only closest thing Byrne got to do was initial drawing, which was kind of redone, even though it's the same exact image, but another artist re-inked it for the Hulk cover. But there's like 5 Hulk treasuries, 5 Spider-Man treasuries. The last one they did was Spider-Man and Hulk in the Olympics. So ultimately, the hard part is understanding that the Spider-Man and the Hulk used to be on just stories, and Marvel at the same time. They, in trying to do what Stan and Jack did, we got the Titans, we got some of the stuff we saw in the Legion, we got some of the stuff we saw in the X-Men, those big type of stories, and then next thing you know, it became like the thing of what to do. But at the same time, they were just trying to get that energy that Stan and Jack had in their books. And then now it's like you have Secret Wars, and people are like, we need another in Crisis, we need another one. We get Zero
You
out.
might as well just you
Here
might
we
as well
go.
just team up with Image
You can't team up
and
with it. They already did. They
Dark Horse.
teamed up with Spawn again. Batman teamed up with Spawn. They did another Spawn one. So
What can you do? What can you do? So hey, if you like what you hear, guys, give us a comment, subscribe,
You know what to do? Get the money.
spin a
Get
rack.
the money. We're out.
Out.
are